Okay, here we go. And we are live. Okay, guys, I'm just going to check because I always do, just to make sure that I can see us because this is important and I want to make sure that everybody's getting it. For those of you who can hear a subtle screaming in the background, that is my 2.5-year-old going down for her nap, losing her shit. There's really no other way to say it. There we are. Okay, we're good. Hello, my love. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I am, well, trying to put the babies to bed. It's hot though today. I'm like in my summer dress. I'm like loving my life. Okay, so let's dive in and get started because today we're talking about poop and I love it. Okay, so everybody, I'm so excited to have you here. This is Alyssa Labrecque, and I never am going to do her justice. So I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. But the reason why I wanted to have Alyssa come on is because, the theme of sort of this virtual health spa has been some of the things that are holding us back from stepping into the women that we want to be. And in a lot of cases, that happens to be, especially now, I hear so much about it, but in a lot of cases, it happens to be gut health. Now, whether or not that just is you feeling bloated every day or whether or not that's actually preventing you from achieving your weight loss goals, are, you know what I mean? The spectrum is so big. So I wanted to have Alyssa come on here and help to answer so many questions that I had that I think will help you guys. So before we dive in, Alyssa, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Alyssa Labrecque. I'm a nutritionist and gut expert, and I help people who are struggling with IBS, SIBO, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, to be able to feel normal again without following restrictive diets and being medicated the rest of their life.
Oh my God, I love that. Okay, so let's dive in and talk. I mean, I just want to jump to it. So there are, you know, so many, well, let me just say, like, so how is gut health related to weight loss, do you think?
Mhm. I mean, it's such a good question. And I'm going to say too, I think that we experience our body and our symptoms as these like disjunct sort of experiences. And the thing is that we are all interconnected. Every part of your system is interconnected. And you really need to be caring about your gut health because it is like the gas tank to your car. It is like that essential fuel source for your car. And so to dismiss some gas and bloating, or maybe some poops that aren't particularly perfect, is ignoring all the other systems that you might be having troubles with, whether that's weight loss or hormone issues or whatever it might be, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so how these two really interconnect is understanding how the gut works, first of all. So let me just backtrack for a second and give you guys a really good tangible experience, something juicy that you can be like, yes, I get it. I understand. So here's the thing. The way that I like to look at our gut is just like our car, right? And our car goes through all this wear and tear, and it's why we do maintenance on our car. You would never skip an oil change, especially not for the life of the car, because if you did that, eventually you would need a new engine, and that's
Mm-hmm.
expensive. So you're like, I'm gonna do the oil change. It's all good. It's like $40 to $60 oil change, depending where you're going, what type of engine you got going on, over an engine rebuild any day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is the same thing's going on inside your gut. Your gut's been going through all this wear and tear. You birthed a baby, and that's tough on the tummy. And for you women at home, you got like hemorrhoids, you had like the whole experience, you're like, all that stuff has been going on. It totally, I was going to swear, messed with your poops, right?
Swear away. We are a free flowing swearing community.
Potty mouth, definitely have a potty mouth. Um, just for the little ears that might be in the background, I have to remind myself. So the thing is like even just having birthed a baby is really tough on the tummy. And so you have been through all this wear and tear. It's taken your whole life to get here. And the problem is no one's ever taught you how to do maintenance on your gut. Like what would the equivalent of an oil change be for your tummy? No one's ever shown us that. And so this is why you need to care. And this is why you're running into health issues, because it's been a lifetime with no maintenance. You're at the engine rebuild phase.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
You're out to make a new dang engine. Like, can we get a new gut up in here? Right. So how does this all interconnect? Well, we start with mild symptoms like gas and bloating. And the problem is, throughout North America, we've really normalized these symptoms. It's even totally awesome when guys do it. Like, it's kind of funny when men do it, especially. There's a lot of fart humor that's alive and well. But these are symptoms coming from your body, and they're sort of the first phase of your gut saying, we're not happy down here. And it starts to snowball into your poops going wonky. So we're going to get into poops down the road here as we get talking today, but for sort of high level, let's say your poops are not where we want them to be. Either you're leaning more on the spectrum of constipation or diarrhea. If you are not properly bulking and forming and eliminating poop, all of those toxins are getting reabsorbed back into your blood system. Now, before any of you that are sitting here watching this being like, oh no, that's not me, I'm good, just wait until we describe what a perfect poop is, and you're going to be like, oh shit, that
literally,
I'm in trouble. Like, and I'm going to tell you right now, for those that are drinking coffee to have a poop, y'all a bunch of cheaters. Okay. So here's the thing. If you are not properly eliminating, whether it's too fast or too slow, toxins reabsorbed back into the blood system, like dirty oil in your car, that
hormones, like all of it, like
black, sludgy, gritty oil in your car, that's what's happening to the blood. And so guess what organ filters all that blood? It's your liver. Your liver is like, that thing is working overtime for you. And it does over 500 different functions for the body, one of which is fat metabolism. And so just imagine toxins from your poop, among many other things that we're breathing, eating, all that stuff, the body's being bombarded with. Your poor liver's filtering all those toxins. Eventually, it's like, okay, I'm tapping out. I'm tired. I can't keep up. And guess what's going to be affected? Weight loss is definitely something that you're going to struggle with. And so to think that you can just eat your way out of it is a long journey, a frustrating journey. And you really want to be loving up your gut. And that's why we're here today, so we can give you some tangible tools.
Totally. Oh my God. I love that. That is like the perfect analogy, I think, for everybody. Such a good visual. Okay. So then let's talk about, so what does a healthy gut actually entail?
Okay, I'm gonna lean into, again, poops again, because I think that's probably the most visual marker that people can grasp onto. Before we get there, I'll say, like, you really shouldn't be feeling any sort of gas or even burping, bloating. These are not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. And so if you're burping or belching or farting or all that kind of fun stuff, that is a sign that your stomach needs some help. So we really want to be in a place where when you eat your foods, you're not feeling that really heavy, full feeling. And I got to share this with you, Lindsay. Years ago, before I realized I had gut issues, I thought I was just fat. Like I'd eat and I'd feel so heavy and full. And I thought the problem was that I was just constantly overeating. What I didn't realize was my stomach wasn't breaking foods down, and they were rotting and fermenting in my gut. And that was creating this gas buildup and this bloat. And so I'd be at restaurants and like having to pop my top button and undo the zipper of my pants,
Totally.
Just to be able to leave the restaurant. That's not just weight. That's not just you overeating. That's a gut issue. Okay, so you should be able to eat and feel satisfied and comfortable. You shouldn't be feeling any sort of pain or discomfort or any sort of symptoms that come after that.
Unless, of course, we have like Christmas dinner style.
Go for it, girl. And I'm not saying you won't ever overeat, or when you overeat that you won't have these symptoms, but it's really speaking to the people who are under eating, quite frankly, and feeling that they're full and heavy and bloated. And
so, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because I was going to say, it's so funny that you say that, because years and years ago, before I even knew about any of this, I used to have, like, I used to get in the afternoons, like, the worst gas of all time. And I remember I would come home and I'd be driving, this might be TMA, but I'm going for it. I would be driving home in the car and my farts would smell so bad that I was like, this smell is going to carry me like inside the house. And I remember walking into the house being like, oh my God, is Marcus going to smell? And like the weird thing is like, I didn't even think at the time that that was not normal. Like, do you know what I mean? I didn't even be like, I wasn't even like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is some rank shit. Like, what is happening? Like, you know what I mean? It was, I almost normalized it for myself, which made it even worse because then it just perpetuated and got worse and worse and worse.
Amen. 1,000%. And that's how we get into these problems of like engine rebuild. We miss the oil change markers, like the light flashing on the dash being like, yeah, you were due for that oil change like 2 weeks ago, remember?
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
we just ignore that. We wait till the point where our car's like shuts down. You know, it has
Mm-hmm.
you flatlined on the couch. It has you sprinting to the toilet, or you haven't pooped in a couple of days, or you're bloating like you look like you might be pregnant, literally. You know, these are, you've dismissed and ignored the intermediate signs, or so those intro signs that we really wanted to be acknowledging. So that's why I want to really run home that this mild gas and bloating, while it might not be affecting your quality of life, it is the precursor to much more severe stuff coming down the road if we don't nip this in the bud. So poop wise, let's talk about like normal poops, perfect poops, as I like to call them.
I love perfect poops.
Yeah, and I mean, guys, if you aren't looking at your poop, please do so. Like it is such a good marker because you can't see inside your tummy to be like, what's going on in there? Like, do you have leaky gut? Are there tiny holes in your gut lining? What's going on in there, tummy? You can't
Mm-hmm.
see it. And so the best gauge of where your stomach's at is your poops. So you should be pooping 2 to 3 times per day. Yes, let me repeat that because that's where people are like, oh, hell no. Like you know, there's people who are pooping once a day who thought they were pooping plenty. And then there's people who are like, they haven't ever pooped even once a day in their life, like every day. And so you should be pooping 2 to 3 times per day. And there should be no pain, no strain, no blood, no mucus. And it should be like in the shape of, let's say, a sausage or banana or chicken nuggets. If you are starting to lean into like the oatmeal or gravy texture, we're in trouble. All right. If we're leaning into corn on the cob or pellet poops, we're in trouble. Okay.
Next time I want to actually have all of these things.
Yes. Yes. This is what a perfect poop should look like. And yeah, so this is what I want you guys to imagine. 2 to 3 times per day, either
Mm-hmm.
chicken nuggets, right? Chicken nuggets, very different than pellet poops. We're talking like rabbit-sized poops, no good. Chicken nuggets, or sausage. No pain, no strain, no blood, no mucus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, quantity wise, you can go 2 to 3 times per day, but if it's only small amounts each time, that doesn't really, it's not sufficient either. So
Mm-hmm.
quantity wise, you should be pooping from your elbow to your wrist in length every day.
This is how much.
Yes. That is the length of your descending colon.
Well, damn, girl. That is.
If you just stand up and you take this arm here and you tuck it right into your, what do you call it?
Your ribs?
Your hip. Yep, you're right into your ribs. You tuck that in, and then you take your hand and you bring it right down the side to your vajayjay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the full length of your descending colon. This is
Wow.
the shape of and the actual location of where your descending colon is. So every single day, that should be what you eliminate. Okay.
Okay, so now question. Oh, this is gonna be so good. Okay, so if you do, so I guess it doesn't necessarily matter like how much throughout the day, just so long as like ideally you're pooping like this much. Because I was gonna say in the morning, my poops are pretty substantial, and then throughout the day, they obviously get less and less and less.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's totally fine. And a lot of people, when they think of perfect poops, they start to really obsess about like every time they sit down, it's not like a large, like, wow, look at that sausage. It's not always going to pan out that way. And the thing is that sometimes you are going to get diarrhea and sometimes there will be some pellet poops. And
Oh,
that's
shit. Sorry. I also am like not even paying attention to the question. Oh, Michelle said what?
yeah. Yeah, like that, this is the body's normal response. And it's okay to have some fluctuation, right? Like think of it this way: if you ever got food poisoning, oh man, I'll never forget the time I was taking a cruise. We went through Jamaica. Jamaica was beautiful, climbed up the Duns River Falls, did a buffet, landed food poisoning, and we were at sea the full next day. I wanted to die.
Mine was Mexico New Year's Eve.
Oh,
Thought it
yeah.
was tequila. Was
Oh,
definitely wrong. It was food poisoning.
like these kinds of situations, bless you body for giving me diarrhea, right? You want your body's like, get it out. So it's okay to have some flux, think of it like the 80-20 rule, but on a majority basis, we want to be making sure you're getting enough poop out. Otherwise, again, you're reabsorbing those toxins. We talked about the liver, but it will also create inflammation for your body too.
Totally. Okay, so let's talk about then. So we talked about sort of like what basically like what entails a healthy gut? Like what helps us have a healthy gut then? Like we talked about like what perfect poops look like. So how do we almost like what does having a healthy gut look like?
Do you mean like what to do to have a healthy gut, or
Yeah.
okay? So the thing with having a healthy gut is, again, thinking of it like maintenance for the body. We want to take a look at not just, let's say, making sure you have perfect poops. We have to look at what gives us perfect poops, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about poop a lot, guys, because again, it is that main marker for your tummy that you can visually see and sort of take note on where your tummy's at.
Which, Alyssa, I have to say, sorry to interrupt you. I love you for that because it's like the moment that I realized that it's on, and it's the same thing that I realized with my cycle. It's like every single month when you get your cycle, it's almost like there's your check-in right there. Like, depending on the color of your blood, depending on how long your cycle is, depending on the clots, like then you're like, my estrogen's low, my estrogen's like, you know what I mean? And the same thing is with like, we can learn so much from this. And I love you so much for bringing that to my attention.
Yeah, and again, guys, if you have gotten to a place where your body's screaming at you with symptoms, we've missed those small signs. Like your poops will have been off, kind of trying to tell you that there was something going on. Maybe you were getting brain fog, fatigue, memory issues. And I'll say, like, moms watching this, I talk to so many moms that are like, oh, I thought that was just because I popped a baby out and I'm breastfeeding. I'm like, no, like, do we really believe that our bodies are meant to feel like shit? Like, do we really believe that we're designed to feel like a bag of shit? No. You should be thriving. And yes, you birthed the baby. And yes, that's hard work for the body, but you should not feel like you're dying. You should not feel like you're still recovering from it 6 months to a year later. Your body is malnourished at that point.
Which is funny too, because I think often as moms, we have this idea that like, the societal, story that we've been told is that we are like exhausted. We have brain fog. We're run off our butts all the time. And so it's like, when you start to feel like that, like I have so many women saying to me like, well, maybe this is just the new normal. And I'm like, no, this isn't the new normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is absolutely not the new normal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is really common for women, not just from birthing, but ladies, like, as you're getting older, then the next thing is going to be, oh, you're going to get menopause and you're going to be sweating your ass off. You're going to be miserable. You're not going to sleep well. And that's normal. And it's not normal. And it's not okay that we are told to just suck that up. Okay. So let's take these symptoms that come early on and not wait till our body has to flatline us. Okay.
Totally.
So in terms of like things that you need to be mindful of, yes, watching your perfect poops, but also understanding inside your tummy, there's a couple of really key things that need to be there. You need to make sure that you've got enough good bacteria happening. Also making sure you have enough enzymes, which these two things are responsible for breaking down foods like tiny Pac-Man in your tummy. All right. Now, they also help to keep bad bacteria out. And unfortunately, these two things are the first things to become depleted when you're stressed, if you've ever had to take antibiotics, if you're eating the same foods all the time, which is why I hate restrictive diets.
Keto. kidding.
Yeah, not kidding. Hashtag not kidding. And I'll just add this in here. I say not kidding because we've had clients that come into our program who have had their gallbladders removed because they've come off of a keto diet. And so
we need to have a whole separate conversation about this, because having a diet that causes you to have your gallbladder removed.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't need something to say, like, don't do keto, like, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, for sure. And so, these two things become depleted, good bacteria and enzymes, which then allows an overgrowth of bad bacteria. We all have some amount of bad bacteria happening. The problem becomes when it's overgrown. And so in terms of keeping a healthy gut in check is making sure that we don't have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, making sure that we have enough good bacteria and enzymes that, generally speaking, our digestive system's working well. And the last thing that I'll just add on here that's so critical, because I know we're talking to moms, is making sure that you're not mineral deficient. You're probably like, well, what the hell does that mean? Minerals, vitamins and minerals. Minerals, you guys will be familiar with iron and magnesium. Well, these are, and calcium is another really common one that people are aware of, but these are like just 3 types of minerals. There's so many minerals. So many. Like, do you know where your molybdenum levels are at, for example? That's like a really key detoxing mineral. So if your body's having a hard time getting rid of shit, essentially, we'll call it toxins, just high level, then you're going to have troubles losing weight, right? So understanding where your minerals are at and making sure that they're in balance is kind of like a tune-up to your car. And so this is sort of the formula for making sure that your digestive system is working in order, and keeping it moving forward so that you don't end up slipping backwards.
Totally. So what are we doing to damage the gut? This is a huge one.
Yeah. There's lots of different things. I mentioned some. Stress is such a big piece. And listen, ladies, I think that there's a lot of times in our life where we feel like we're cool as a cucumber, or maybe you're like, nope, not me, I'm a hot mess. But sometimes we go through periods of our life where we feel like, I think I'm doing pretty good right now. But I'd ask you then, do you have a busy mind? Gotcha. Right? Like, guilty. Me too. Like, we have to understand, as women, the way that we're wired is very different than men. Men come from a very, headspace, sort of black and white, much more logical. We as women, we feel everything deeply. We feel things. We go through things through emotion. And that is really stressful for our body. And when your mind is constantly spinning, that is stressful for the body, because your body doesn't understand the types of stress. It's not able to differentiate. Like, are you spinning, like, is your mind spinning on whether you, I don't know, remember to turn the stove off, or whether you overate at a certain meal, or whether you have an actual psychopath chasing after you?
It's funny that you say that, because a couple of weeks ago when we had Deb Lauren on, who was talking about fear and stuff, she was saying too that so much, especially now with COVID and everything, so much of the fear that we feel isn't actually real fear. It's just perceived. Like, it's just, it's all of these scenarios that we create in our heads that haven't even existed yet. And yet it's like we're future stressing. Like, you know what I mean? We're stressing about things that haven't even happened yet, which is crazy. And I think that so many women, like, I remember, oh my God, it used to like kill me when Marcus and I started dating so long ago, like his head. And this is how I knew that I was like chronically stressed, because like at night, his head would hit the pillow and he'd be out. And for me, it was literally like, it used to take me forever to go to sleep, because my mind just wouldn't stop all the time.
And then enter, this is a whole other talk, but like antidepressants and sleep medications that the doctors are handing out like candies. And guys, sometimes it's needed, but I'll ask you, are you not sleeping due to a deficiency in those medications? Or is it because your mind is spinning and you're stressed the fuck out, Like, are you gaining weight because I don't know, like, there's all these, like, you need, I'm not even going to start listing them because I don't want people to go out and look at them, like buy them. But like, there's all these supplements that are like weight loss supplements. Are you deficient in those? Or do you have like inflammation happening in your body? If you not pooped in a couple of days, are you like really not nailing down your nutrition, either under eating because you think that's going to make you lose weight, or are you maybe eating too much
Overeating.
because,
Yeah.
you're trying to undereat all day to get, become caloric deficit to try to lose weight. And then at nighttime, you're ravenous, you're exhausted, your kids have been pissing you off, and you're like, where's all the food? I'm going to eat a horse. I'm going to chew off my husband's head instead. You choose, husband. We just we go crazy at nighttime. And then you make up for the missing calories through the day. Not a good plan, right? So anyways, guys, understanding, your body is all connected, and really sitting back and asking, why is this happening to me? Why am I experiencing this? Let's get to that level.
So basically, stress for one, I think it's stress. Oh, sorry. So Susan, sorry, I was just looking because there was a question. So stress is obviously a huge one because it's just, it changes everything. Like it literally, which is why, and I know that I get so many eye rolls from moms when I'm like, what's your stress reduction techniques and like whatever, but it just impacts everything. So I love the fact that, that you said that it's one of the things that really damages our gut. Okay. So I'm going to just quickly ask, Susan just asked the question. So what should we eat tomorrow to get back on track?
Tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Like if we want to start correcting our guts, and this is the interesting thing. So if we want to start fixing our guts, what types of foods should we eat?
Yeah. Okay.
I think you might say this, but I'm just gonna let you go because I think you might say this.
Okay. Well, great question. I was curious about the tomorrow. I'm like, why not now? Kind of thing is where my mind went. And
let's get started today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because I like to really uncomplicate food. And a lot of people feel like they have to become a master chef. And like one of the things I tell my clients all the time, and they make fun of me, is I'm a lazy ass cook. And I had a client actually mimic this back to me the other day. I just witnessed her. She was sort of emulating how I am when I do my Facebook lives while I'm cooking for my clients. And I was like, oh, wow, like that really did translate, that I am that, flippant about my food. I'm very laid back about it. I'm focusing on just getting the key food categories like protein, fat, carbs, and vegetables religiously. Mm-hmm. And I just treat it like a checklist, check. And she was doing this, I just throw it on my plate, like chicken, broccoli, sweet potato, and avocado. Bing, bang, boom, you're done. So I like to keep
girl after my own heart. That's why we love each other so much. Ain't nobody got time to spend in the kitchen.
Totally. So I really encourage you guys to please don't overcomplicate the food. Mm-hmm. It really is that simple. It's whole, healthy foods. There's no foods out there that are like going to hurt you, like broccoli or sweet potato. They're not bad for you. They become detrimental to our health when we overdo these food categories, right? So I'll give you an example. When I was in university, I was like the one pot pasta kind of girl. I would cook up like a big ass pot of pasta and throw some ragu on it. And it makes me cringe still to this day.
I did the exact same thing. It's so funny.
My goodness. And you eat that, but you're overeating your carbs, the pasta, because I didn't have any protein. I didn't have any vegetables. I didn't have any healthy fats. And so focusing on balancing those food categories is all you need to really focus on. And the problem becomes when we overeat these certain food categories, which kind of loops back to the question we were chatting about earlier, which we didn't quite finish, is what are we doing to harm our gut? We're overeating certain foods. So if you're eating too much of a particular food, your body eventually runs out of those enzymes. It's like, I'm out. I'm tapping out. I have nothing left to digest any more of this particular food group. And so it ends up sitting in the gut, rotting and fermenting. Having healthy portions, which is something that Lindsay can help you with, will really help you to teach you how to balance out those plates. Okay. So that's what you can focus on in terms of food. And then of course, enjoying things like fermented foods like sauerkraut are always a really great gut loving, boosting food, but food does not need to be complicated. And there's no like fancy gut diet. Like we don't do that in our program. We reverse a lot of the damage from people following those diets in our program. So
for sure. And I think it's also really important to note that just like our fingerprints, like our guts are unique to us. So
Mhm.
it is not like a one size
No.
fits all, like everybody. This is why it also kills me with like so many companies pushing like probiotics right now and like all these different things, and people just going and like buying them thinking that they're doing. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you need to figure out what's going on with you, because we are not all the same, and you treating this may actually be damaging this. Like,
Yeah,
you thinking that you're doing this may actually be damaging this. So I think that that's the thing too, is it's really, really important to sort of do the deeper work to figure out what's actually going on with you,
mhm.
as opposed to just going out and buying like a trillion probiotics or whatever it is, hoping that you're just going to get her done.
Totally. And then, everyone always cringes when we go back to this topic, stress, but this is why you can't out eat like stress, for example, these lifestyle factors. You really have to bring into account all of the contributing factors of why or what's causing these imbalances in your body. This is where we tend to miss the bigger underlying things like stress and mineral imbalances and enzyme deficiencies, all this stuff. And we hyper focus on food, and we start
Mm-hmm.
blaming food, and we demonize health foods. And that's where we've seen this damage being done of, fear of carbs is such a good one. It's the sort of the most common one right now. And guys, I can't stress enough, if you need carbs, especially if you're a busy mom, you got kids running around, you need the carbs, because that's where your body is generating energy from. And so if you find you're getting those afternoon lulls and you're crashing and you're exhausted, you're missing some sort of food category, and making sure you're filling those in and eating consistently. That's all you have to do. It's as
Mm-hmm.
simple as that.
I know there really is no secret sauce to it. Okay, so let's, because hashtag keto. So let's talk, let's talk about how restricted diets can, damage your gut, and I guess as a byproduct then also your metabolism.
Mhm.
And let's just talk about keto, because I'm so excited to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, restrictive diets in general are really damaging. And I'm going to say,
Oh, and Michelle just asked a question. Sorry. And do you want me to ask? Let's do this and then I'll go back to her question.
yeah, for sure, we can do that. So the thing with restrictive diets is, generally speaking, from a physical standpoint, I kind of explain this, that your body produces these enzymes that break down food like Pac-Man. Breaks down foods like Pac-Man. That's better. A little bit better English. I feel like I'm a cave woman or something. Break down food. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so your body is breaking down these foods with these enzymes, and when we are overeating or undereating or just doing these all sorts of wonky things with our tummy and our digestive system, eventually our body stops producing these enzymes. It becomes deficient in these enzymes, and that's problematic. And so what tends to happen is we go to eat, then foods are not breaking down properly. They sit in the gut, they rot, they ferment, and it creates this gas buildup. That's one of the reasons why we're bloating. And that typically happens about 20 to 30 minutes after a meal. And that's a sign that, you need some enzyme support. And so following these restrictive diets often has you hyper focusing on certain food groups, or taking out others that you end up with limited food variety. And so you overeat and you run out of these enzymes. But beyond that, I think the even bigger issue with them is that it creates this anxiety and food fear, right? And I'm just going to say this out loud, because we all need to hear this and just acknowledge it. A lot of people don't think that they have an eating disorder, and you might not have an eating disorder, but I would put money on the fact that probably the majority of people out there, not probably, the majority of people out there have disordered eating,
Eating.
some sort of disordered relationship with food because of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let me explain what this looks like. It doesn't mean that you're binging or purging necessarily, although that does impact a lot of people. And there's no judgment with that at all, to be crystal clear. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be twisted. And what that looks like, though, in sort of again, like kind of like the gas and bloating, it starts with mild gas and bloating, it turns into this engine rebuild. Same thing with disordered eating. Starts with these mild sort of analytical sort of situations that happen around food, turns into full-blown eating disorder. Okay, so how does this look? This looks like you go to eat your foods and you're like, I don't know if I should be eating this like chickpea. I don't know if I should be eating chickpeas. Chickpeas are a carb, and I'm pretty sure if I eat too much carb, then I'm going to retain water. And then if I retain water, when I go to step on the scale tomorrow, I'm going to gain weight and I'm going to be blah, blah, blah. I mean, that is disordered eating. Okay. And, or we are like, you're hyper focused, like you want to go out and you want to eat the food, but you're like, I shouldn't be eating this food right now. I'm not eating these nachos. If I eat these nachos, I shouldn't be eating them. And I know dairy's not good for me, and dairy causes inflammation and it's going to constipate me. If this is happening in your head, if this is happening, that is disordered eating. That is not a healthy relationship with food, and you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're not alone.
I would bank money on it that I would probably say like 80% of women feel this way all the time, particularly around carbs. Like right now,
Yeah.
I think it's particularly around carbs, which is funny because I feel like in the 80s and 90s, it was around fat, which is when all of the like low fat, the low fat craze came out. Yeah. Now I think it's like low carb is the craze. Yeah. I'm very curious to see what the next one's going to be.
Yeah. And I don't know if you have any of these women in your community, the ones that are really focused on fitness, but they tend to be like hyper, like, I need to get enough protein. Like, did I get enough protein? They're like freaking out about the protein, and guys, like this death grip on food, that spinning is fucking stressful. Like, I know you guys are, if you're doing this, you guys totally understand what I'm talking about. I've been there too. Like, I know what this feels like. So there's zero judgment, and I know how you feel. That whole process that's going on around food is a byproduct of restrictive diets, of the idea that food is the problem that's making you overweight or constipated or diarrhea or whatever, hormonal, whatever you think is going on. We're blaming the food. And food is not the problem. Your gut is. Your imbalances, the damage and deficiencies happening in your gut are the problem. Your stress level is the problem. And now your relationship with your food is the problem. It's not the food.
Not to mention too, and I've talked about this before, like when you're eating, if you are in a stressed out state about what you're eating, your body's just going to store it. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like already this, it's like, it just wants to hold on to everything. Like when you go in stress, your body just wants to hold on to everything. Yeah. So if you're freaking out about the carbohydrate, like the French fries that you just ate, or your kid's birthday cake, like you're not doing yourself any favor.
No. Let me unpack that a little bit more, because I want you guys to have these visuals. When you're doing this, you're going to like hear me in your head. And you're gonna be like, damn, like, I want you to hear this in your head when this is happening for you. When you are stressing out, what happens is it turns off your digestive system like a light switch. And then it turns on your fight or flight system like a light switch. Okay. And so you've just turned off your gut and said, no, we don't need any digestion down here. We're going into fight or flight. Remember, your body isn't able to tell what type of stress it is. It isn't able to tell whether you're stressing about the food you're about to eat or if it's a psychopath. And so it thinks you're about to run away from the psychopath, and you've just shut down digestion, and then you go to eat a meal. And we wonder why we don't feel good.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I always say too, like, especially for women, like if you think about it, if you're running out of the house in the morning and like you're freaking stressed out, like, or if you're commuting to work, the last thing you want to do is grab a granola bar or like, you know what I mean? Or like have a donut on the way into the office, because
totally
all that's happening.
Absolutely. So, that's the big thing, guys, is, food is not the problem. And when we look at really understanding diets, like what you should be doing, you should be listening to your individual body. We focus on the food groups: protein, fat, carb, veg. And from there, you can really start to hone in on what individual foods work for your body. When you use this template, you get to eat the foods you already know you love that agree with your body. It's just about learning and understanding the portions that you should be eating and how to properly pair these groups together throughout the day. And that's your sweet spot. It's not in elimination of food, it's in reintroduction of food and getting more variety happening in your life.
Amazing. Okay, I love it. Okay, I'm just gonna check. Brooke was like, "This is so true. Preach, sister." Megan said yes. So Michelle said, "So ex-keto, Lindsay knows major constipation issues. Is there anything beyond balanced macros that can help bring back balance?"
Are you referring to poops, I'm assuming?
I think so. Yeah, major constipation issues. So I
Okay.
guess like having more, if you, so say if you're coming off keto and if you're having, like if you're struggling to go to the bathroom again, what
Yeah.
would be some like things that you would recommend to people?
So it does get a little bit tricky. What was her name? Sorry.
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay, so hey, Michelle. So it gets a little bit tricky because here's the thing. When I hear that, when I hear you say I was doing keto and it made me constipated, what I'm hearing is that you might have trouble digesting fats. And so there isn't sort of a one size fits all recommendation in terms of bouncing back from that, in that we need to figure out what's going on inside your individual body. Again, I suspect that you're probably struggling to break down fat. And so what I would suggest for you is, first of all, like, let's just knock off the most important things. Making sure you're getting enough water, guys, is so
So
important.
important.
Okay. So take your body weight, divide it by 2. That gives you the number of ounces of water you should be drinking every single day. If you're drinking coffee or exercising, you need to increase that amount. Okay. Making sure you're nailing down your hydration, because if you are dehydrated and you're trying to poop, it's like dry as the Sahara Desert, nothing is going to come out. So you need to make sure that you are hydrated. The other thing is, your doctors, the very first thing they'll tell you is eat more fiber. That's not always the answer, but if you're not at least getting like a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to your day, add that in. From there, supporting overall digestion, the number one thing that I recommend is apple cider vinegar.
I'm queen of apple cider vinegar before a meal.
Yeah, like this is something that's so easy to do. It helps to stimulate enzyme production. So remember your Pac-Man, right? What you're doing is you're taking a tablespoon, dilute it down in a quarter cup of water. I know you can drink it like a champ, but it will hurt your esophagus and your stomach. Do not drink it straight, okay? So dilute it down, gulp that back about 15 minutes before a meal. And what that does is gives your body a bit of a swift kick and says, get producing those enzymes because I'm about to start eating.
Foods are coming.
Yeah, like your liver. Remember your liver getting bogged down. Well, your liver produces bile, which is one of the other jobs that it does, which is an enzyme that helps you break down your fat. So apple cider vinegar would be what I'd recommend.
Okay, amazing. She said, yes, exclamation point. I take 2 tablespoons ACV a day with lemon first thing in the morning. Okay. So, but just making sure that she's taking them before every single meal to help prime that digestion. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Lemon water first thing in the morning is also great to help stimulate the bowels too.
So good. Okay. So let's talk about bloating. So why would you say, like, because so many people experience bloating, why would you say that bloating is a deeper issue of something else going on?
Well, bloating, again, isn't a result of food. And this is where a lot of people, at least what I see in my community, is they eat and they bloat. And so like, must have been the broccoli. And so they start taking out the broccoli. And then, the next day they eat and they're eating brown rice and they bloat. And they're like, shit, now I can't eat brown rice. And so you start taking out all these foods. And eventually all that happens, guys, is you run out of foods to eat. And then you put yourself on a restrictive diet and you didn't even mean to, right? So food isn't the problem. Again, I want you to ask yourself, when something's happening, why is that reaction happening? Right? It's not a whole healthy food that's meant to nourish your body hurting you. That's like saying, oh, my engine's not working well in my car. I'm just going to stop putting gas in the gas tank. Right? And it's not enough to just say, well, I'm just going to put even premium gas in the gas tank and, switch to organic foods. We need to go deeper and say, why is that happening? It's the engine. You need to pop the hood. Same thing with the gut. It's the gut. You need to pop the gut or the hood to the gut, right? So when bloating happens, again, it's typically 2 different things going on. So one, not enough enzymes, making foods rotting and fermenting, and that's creating a gas buildup. This, again, will happen about 20 to 30 minutes after a meal. And there's a whole other class of bloating, though. For the people who are bloating all day long, who find that it continually gets worse throughout the day, that find that they leave their house in an outfit in the morning and by the end of the day, they don't really fit in that outfit very well. This is next level bloating. That's something that is beyond just not breaking down your foods. This is bacteria territory. And so we need to start looking at the overgrowth of bad bacteria that's happening in the body. And so looking at these two main things here is going to be so much more empowering for you and going to yield way better results than taking out the food, because again, food wasn't the problem.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. Okay, so then did we cover this already? I wanted to ask you, so how do we know, is there a way to know whether or not your weight loss is impacted by your poop? Like, is there a way to look at your poop and be like, my weight loss could be impacted by this?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, if you're not pooping with like the, again, 2 to 3 times per day, length of the forearm, no pain, no strain, no blood, no mucus. If you are outside of that, then yeah, your poops are affecting you, because there is going to be inflammation, irritation, toxins, and some sort of backlash that's going to impact the overall functionality of your body. And weight isn't, again, just a result of food. Weight is a symptom. It could be in part due to inflammation, hormones, liver stuff, gut stuff. And so your poops, if they're off, will be impacting how your body's functioning, and that can impact your weight.
Okay, amazing. So then last question, and it's, oh my God, I feel like it's so big, but so what, and I think we kind of dove into it a little bit. So what can we start to do today to improve our gut health, get our poops on track, and even start to, if possible, even reduce the bloating?
So the big thing here, again, is find peace with food, so that at the very least you can reduce your stress level. Okay. And then the next piece is, this is sort of a summary of everything we've talked about, but reducing your stress level, because that stress is going to cause damage and deficiencies to your gut. And so if before we even get into the repairing of your gut, if we can just prevent it with these two things from snowballing into the angry gut train, as I like to call it, we can just prevent the development of these damage and deficiencies, then you are well on your way. Right. But then from a standpoint of, daily, what you can do to support your gut, the apple cider vinegar shots that we talked about, making sure you're getting your water in daily, adding in fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, umbashi plums, if you can find them in your local health foods.
I found them the other day and I was so intrigued. Okay, can you just describe, this is so off topic, but I'm very curious. So what do they taste like?
They don't taste fantastic.
Okay.
But this is a type of food that, again, helps to feed your good bacteria. They're quite sour in a sense. And so really great for you. And even, guys, I'll just expand this even further beyond just the fermented food itself, the liquid that it comes in. Okay. Now, the other thing, though, we're talking a lot about adding in the good stuff, but I am just going to, introduce the concept that there are some inflammatory foods that are not beneficial for you, that may be adding to the inflammation, that might be irritating your gut, that then can keep your body, the way that I like to look at it is like I like that foggy, drunk state, when you're like kind of buzzed. That's what these inflammatory foods will do. So things like dairy are going to be really tough on your system. Whether you have a sensitivity to them or not, they're really hard for you to digest. They're like a glue in your tummy. And that's, again, like that foggy, buzz, drunk state. Your body's going to have to fight to break down these inflammatory foods instead of focusing on bringing healing and weight loss to your body. So the reason I bring that up is because many people run out to buy yogurt for their probiotics.
Can you talk about yogurt for a second? Because you said it the other day, you were talking about yogurt and how it's so funny because there's so many, there's probiotics in it, but then there's also so much sugar in it too. Can you talk about yogurt?
Yeah, totally. So the thing about yogurt is that, well, this has been going on for a little bit now. I'm going to say, we're just referred the food industry has really started been catching on to the fact that consumers are educating themselves and understanding the importance of gut health and probiotics. And so probiotics has been a bit of a buzzword, and prebiotics sort of following up after that for a few years now. And so the challenge being is these mass produced yogurts, years ago, they stopped fermenting them. You know, like a yogurt that maybe our grandparents or great grandparents grew up on was a true, you know, fermented yogurt that had good bacteria in it. They stopped doing that when they started mass producing foods. Okay. And so you're not actually getting the good bacteria. Well, then consumers started catching on to, we want probiotics, and we hear that yogurt's a good source of that. And so companies like Activia started saying, oh, there's billions of bacteria in our yogurt. Well, let me just tell you what they did. They don't ferment their yogurt.
They just sprinkle it on
a single strain of bacteria into their yogurt. And, you know, there's actually 1 billion bacteria per serving. For some context, I give many of our clients a 90 billion probiotic. And so you would have to eat 90 of those single serve cups of yogurts per day to get what you would get in one capsule of a probiotic. And the challenge is you're not just getting all the, you know, bacteria, the single strain of bacteria from that, but you're getting tons of sugar and inflammation that's coming with it. All right. And just again, for some context, you have thousands, you actually have 1,000 different strains of bacteria in your body. So thank you, Activia, but the single strain that they've added in is really not doing shit. And so
we're good.
Yeah, it's skip the yogurt, guys. I'd rather you go eat some kimchi or sauerkraut or something like that.
Or fermented pickles. Yes, so good. Those are my favorite.
Real fermented pickles, guys, not the vinegar ones on the store shelves, like the ones in the fridge section. Bubby's is a really great brand if you can find it.
Bubby's.
Yeah. So that's just something to keep in mind, guys. The other thing, I know no one ever likes hearing this, but unfortunately, you are not a baby cow. I hate to break it to you. And we just don't have the enzymes to break down the breast milk of another animal. And that's the truth. And so dairy is really, really tough and tough on our tummies. It's really inflammatory for our bodies. And so you don't have to go without. You can do the pizza, you can do the lasagna, you can do whatever you want. You can have it. We just teach you the swaps. So there's no restriction. It's just finding a healthier alternative that tastes just as delicious.
Amazing. Okay. And so what was the other one? What can we do to reduce bloating?
So I would do the apple cider vinegar, because why that bloating is happening is not enough enzymes. And so again, that swift kick from the apple cider vinegar will help get those enzymes going and can really help to digest those foods a little bit better for you.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay. So basically every single day, managing your stress, which is funny too. And I'm just going to say this as a quick side note, because for me, I made the connection that my poops were associated with stress when I used to travel. And I would travel a lot for work. And the reason being, and then so like whenever I would travel a lot for work, all of us, or even vacation, I would always be like, oh my God, like I couldn't poop for like the first 4 or 5 days. And I was always like, what is going on? And then I realized that it's because I'm under so much stress. You know what I mean? Like you're traveling, everything's new. And I just feel like by reducing the stress, even to this day, I have like a morning routine where I literally just like have an hour, like before the girls get up. And I literally find that like after I have my glass of water with like, you know, my lemon in it or whatever, if I have like my matcha, me just sitting there and chilling out, my body just knows what to do. And then like within the hour, I'm going. But I think that that's the other thing too, is that so many of us just like jump out of bed and like right away we're getting the kids' breakfast going and like we're doing all these things and like we're just pushing. And it's like your body doesn't even have the ability to just
slow down,
chill the fuck out and like release what it needs to release.
Have a poop. Yeah.
It's so funny. So stress is, I will say that was the biggest learning for me. And I learned it so much when I was traveling for work, because I was like, why is this happening? And it was like, oh, it's because I'm so stressed out being in another city, being on a plane, having all these new experiences. And my body just wasn't acclimatized to it. And so it would literally just like hold on to everything.
Well, and let's just sort of touch on this too. What's really driving that stress, I think, is this belief that I think that happens for a lot of people, but especially women, that it is, we are worthy of love when we put other people first. Right? I think a lot of people feel that. And so I've had moms tell me before, well, I have to put my kids first. Like that's like, it was just like a non-negotiable. And I'm like, yes, you take care of your kids. Yes, you love them, but it is not, a badge of honor to harm yourself. And you would never, ever, ever look your kids in the eyes and tell them, don't you dare put yourself first in this life. When you grow up, you need to put everyone else first. And that is the only time that you are worthy of love. Right? You would never, ever do that. And yet that's what so many women are doing. We feel that it is our job to put ourselves last, essentially.
Just sacrifice everything for other people.
Sacrifice everything. And that's where that is masked as stress, as I don't have time, as I don't know how, as the procrastinating. Those are all the excuses. People call them excuses. I don't look at them as excuses. I look at them as the way that you're protecting yourself from really looking at the real issue here, which is you're struggling to prioritize yourself because at some point in your life, someone taught you that you don't deserve to have love first, so that you can show up your best self for your family. And guys, permission granted to give that to yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Every day. So good. So damn good, as always. Thank you, Alyssa, for coming and shooting the shit with us on shit. It was so much fun. I could talk about poops all day. I could talk about poops and bloat, mostly because I was the woman who ignored all of the little lights along the way, and had to do a complete gut overhaul. I had to rebuild that engine. So this to me just resonates so deeply. And I just want so many people to know that it's everything that you said. It's feeling normal and incredible and wonderful around food is exactly how you should feel. And if you don't feel like that, then these are the things that you need to be paying attention to.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, sweetie. I really, really appreciate it. And guys, if you have any questions, as always, you can just ask them under the post, and we can redirect them to Alyssa and make sure that you guys get all of the support that you need. And yeah, thanks for tuning in to our very last virtual health spa. It was amazing. Okay, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the group. Okay, bye.